Hello and welcome to Northern Lights. This is a new visual novel that literally just came out, I think, Friday of the 18th. Yeah, the 18th. Um, I'm doing this because I know it's short enough that I could just slip it in before I start putting out the other visual novel that I was supposed to, which I am working on. So, also, to be able to read it before I end up having to, again, read more of the other visual novel and edit, unfortunately. But yeah, I know very little about it. I know that it is about these two characters right here. I think one's like a German Shepherd and the other one's an otter. Um, and that's actually about it. I know that the art director for this visual novel is Haps, who has done the sprites for Ad Astra and Intera and Kamiya, along with some other work, like I think what's that one? Cleaved. Yeah. Uh that's really all I know. I think that these two characters are gonna go off to college or something, and that's about it. That's really all I know. It's really pretty art, you know. The music too. Mm, well, really not much else to say, except I guess let's begin and see what this story is about. Who am I? Well, I'm Cody by default, I guess. There were only two things pleasant about waking up that morning: the warm, refreshing aromas of the bayou, and the knowledge that my friends would be here soon. For our last summer day together. Sitting on the edge of the bed, I glanced over at the nightstand and picked up a small geode, resting on the lamp, turning it back and forth, watching the crystals glimmer in the morning light. The sight of it was always a comfort, filling me with strength whenever I felt weak. I'd gotten up early, taking time to repack my bags, hoping that I'd figure out how to fit more stuff in. It was a losing battle, however, and I was lucky that I could still fit everything that I'd already packed back in. Carefully wrapping the geode in my thickest shirt, tucking it into my backpack before wandering over to the closet. Fishing around, I made sure that I accounted for all the reels of film and the small projector was packed. As I rummaged through and sorted the box, I almost couldn't believe how many movies my friends and I had created over the years. Suddenly, something tapped against my window. My eyes darted towards the sound, spotting Tobin with his casual, confident smile. Quickly, I opened the latch and the window slid up. Tobin crawled through and stood up, taking a moment to straighten his shirt before pulling me into a brief hug. Tobin was a scrawny fox and one of my best friends. Puberty hasn't been kind, save for how energetic he is. He knows English, but like most Creole folks, knows and prefers French. Bonjour, Cody. Good morning, Cody. Prêt à partir? Ready to go? Bonjour, Tobin. Yes, I am. Just hard since my roots are here, and they want to stay, no matter what my pa said. 'Twasn't long before Liam stuck his snout through the window, grinning stupidly as he forced his large shape inside. The sill creaked and groaned as the wood threatened to give out under the big gator. The gator swings his arms around me and pulled me into a crushing hug, my head pressed against his chest. His hugs always felt like being a grain in a stone mill. At least his hide was cool to the touch, a pleasantry in this hot, humid air that was blowing in from the open window. Don't fret, don't fret. Today's just like any other day, right? Too much squeezing. More adventures, right? Liam was squeezing all the air from my lungs in his hug. He held onto me tighter than I'd like to admit. I could tell that he wasn't ignoring what would happen at the end of the day, but trying his best to hide it. Facile, Liam. Ain't no adventure if he's flattened before it begins. Liam kept that big dumb grin of his as he dropped the hug. It took a good moment for me to catch my breath, but I was soon laughing, even gave a playful punch to Liam's arm. J'espère que vous n'avez pas encore mangé. Okay, full disclosure, I don't know French that well, so hopefully that didn't sound atrocious. Hope you haven't eaten yet. Gar's got a special seafood boil going by the word of it. Heard it was for our movie premiere. Man, he knows he ain't gotta say it. They're always special. Course he does. Maybe I'll fill up for once. We all busted a gut when Liam said that he might sate his appetite, all the feelings of dread leaving with our laughter, at least for now. Got all your things packed? Before I could even answer, he wandered the room and checked that I had nothing left behind that was important to us. Much as I could fit. Motioning over to the two stuffed duffel bags and a backpack that was strapped shut with bungee cords, they would have to do. A firm knock drew all the warmth in the room away, my eyes fixated on the gilded knob. It slowly twisted like my gut before the door was pushed open. Time's up. Get up. Mind your business, you old ass. You idiots want me to call up the sheriff. Cody ain't welcome here no more. Liam glared at his father as he moved to stand between us. He glowered at my dad, years of pent-up anger growing on his face. When was he ever been welcome in your house? You ain't ever been a father to him, just whipping out the belt whenever he fucks up in your eyes. Guys, you don't have to do this. Tobin proudly stepped up with Liam to defend me from my father. All you see when you look at Cody is a bunch of accomplishments you claim as your own, and a bunch of defeats that you don't want the world to know about. You're a pathetic, power-hungry cockroach of a man. How dare any of you talk back to me? Get the hell out of my house. He ain't worth it, guys. Let's just leave. Tobin grabbed the film, Liam the duffel bags, and I grabbed the backpack as we pushed past my father. One last walk through the hallway, down the stairs, passing memories as we walked through the front door. Ma was waiting outside, tearing up as we stepped out. I used to blame her, but as the day grew nearer, I realized that she was just as trapped as I was. None of this was truly her fault. I hope that one day she will find the strength to break the tradition and not be scared. In my heart, I knew all that she would have to do is call, and I'd be there for her. I love you, Cody. Please send letters to your titty. She pulled me into a hug, and I lowered a bit, allowing her to lay a gentle kiss on my cheek. Of course, Ma. Love you too. Get away from him and come inside, Fiona. He's not our son anymore. She stepped away, and Liam started loading my bags into the back of his truck. Tobin, however, didn't seem finished. He knew this was his last chance to say something. The fox stood between me and the door, staring angrily at my father, who watched on. Not a single piece of my great friend Cody is because of how you raised him. Nothing of his accomplishments, happiness, his time on this earth. None of it belongs to you. It never has. You don't deserve to ever be called a father, you shitty excuse for a man of God. Your judgment day will come, and the scales will never be in your favor. The rage in my father's eyes felt like the fires of hell on my fur. So great it was when the door slammed. Our porch light fell, shattered against the ground. Tobin huffed angrily, turning away from the door, resting a paw on my back to push me away from the house. By the truck, I turned to face the old house. Far better memories floated up at the sight of it, thanks to my friends. Even Liam and Tobin stared at the old house, a look of mourning in their eyes. Sure, my pot had never been nice to me, but I used to like the house, all the years that we spent hanging in my room and the garden. But a veil had lifted, and my first genuine moment of freedom from parental obligations, I saw the house as the stagnant crypt it truly was. We should head out, Cody. Tobin's voice seemed to shake me from my mourning, and I felt as though a weight was falling off my shoulders. I've been dreading this morning all summer, but with the door locked and the eyes of my father never to see me again, I felt happy. Heck, Tobin, you told Mr. Laurent off real good. Me? Look at yourself, big marshmallow. You never talk back to anyone. Tobin jumped onto Liam's back in a pathetic attempt to try and knock the gator to the ground. The sight of which drew a chuckle out of me, breaking me completely away from what little connection I had left to the house. Watching as they wrestled, I knew that they were the ones that truly mattered to me. Always knew you had a fighting spirit in there somewhere. Come on, let it out again. The gator was laughing harshly, stumbling a little on his feet to balance himself as the struggling fox grappled around his neck. Knock it off, brah. I ain't a fighter. Get him, Tobin. The scrappy little fox did all that he could to make the gator succumb to the strength and the fury of his pint-sized rage. But Liam wasn't having it, still laughing loudly as he fought to pry the fox off of his back. Sacre bleu! It's like trying to knock down a mountain. Tobin let out a long, exhausted huff, straightening out his shirt once more, smiling at the still undefeated gator. We got a bit before the boil. What you want to do? Could you go to City Park? One last stroll for old time's sake? Onward! Liam chuckled and climbed into the driver's seat of his truck. Cranking down the window, I scrambled in, sitting in the middle, sandwiched between my best friends. We've quickly gotten used to being squished forward, leaving room for the gator's large tail, and my rudder having to find room on the bench seat. If Tobin wasn't so short, he might have been pushed right off the edge into the floor. To adventure! Liam's truck jerked to life, and off we went, for the last time driving away from my home. I felt so strange. I had thought that I would have been more upset, but as we turned the first corner, heading for the park, all I felt was joy. Joy that I would not waste another day of my life under my father's rule. This was a chance to fully make my own way in the world, actually be able to commit to my dreams rather than those of my father. City Park was our first movie, yeah? Oh yeah. What was that, called again? Terror of the Mirror Bridge. I recite the title in my most menacing tone, hunching slightly to give my appearance a creepy factor. Foolish mortals, do you dare wake him? Tobin and Liam laughed softly, the fox playfully pushing against me, trying to jar me out of my Oscar-worthy performance. Brah, that one was so weird. I like to think that we made better films since then. I don't think anything was better than watching you stumble around, wrapped in a bunch of foil. I can still hear your ear-bleeding crunchy sound. It was a pleasant memory, one that was fun to snicker at. Just the thought of the small gator wrapped head to claw in a bunch of foil, wadding about a public park so as not to shred the costume, was easily enough to rile laughs. Liam had looked like a walking TV dinner, rather than the demon of our first film featured. That was only our first go at it though. We had gotten way better at it, but we kept the horror naturally. Taking a deep breath, I bellowed to the heavens, unleashing as mighty a roar as an otter could possibly muster. I am the mirror monster! Puny mortals, you have unleashed my reflective wrath! The outburst caused Liam to laugh so hard the truck jerked harshly as he accidentally pressed down on the clutch, while Tobin chittered with delight. Nope, still weird, no matter how you spin it. Sides, I said it better. What can I say? You got a knack for it, Liam. I'm better off screen, finding the best way to showcase you both. I like you better as a hero, Liam. The comment caused the gator to swell with pride, glancing over at the fox. You're just saying that to be nice. Nah, he's right. Truly a shine in that role. Easy to see how much more you enjoy it. The larger gator snorted, looking away, embarrassed by the sudden shower of compliments. Cody is the best victim, though. No question about that. Hey. Yeah, he's got the best scream and faints so cutely. Yeah, well, hush up. I couldn't help but laugh. The pair ganging up like that was always a treat in my eyes. We made it to City Park, a little after 11. The park was already a flurry of activity. Locals and tourists flocked here to enjoy the scenery. Large trees offered their shade, and a crisp wind blew through the park, a perfect day to relax with friends. The park had its charm, and I couldn't deny that it was an eye-catching location for our films. But once we started to really explore the city, we found places even more locals don't know about. Forgotten hideaways where time stood still, each imbued with the ethereal atmosphere, breathed unique life into our films. We wandered along one of the willow-lined paths until we came to what had been the starring set piece of our first movie. Without hesitation, I jumped onto the stone railing, not paying much mind to the tourists around. Beware, foolish mortals, for I am free, and I will feast upon your souls. Gaze into your own reflections and be lost forevermore. Fox, look upon me, and I will reflect your worst fear. The sudden lunge into reenacting our first film caught my friends off guard. What fear would that be? Running out of honey? Tobin was quick to take on his character, moving behind Liam in a stage act of cowardice. I mean, oh no, not my soul. Please don't. Hey, being short on nectar is no joke. Beignets just ain't right without honey. Liam swiftly snapped into character, taking on the heroic role that I once filled. Stand back, brah, for only I know how to defeat the mirror monster. Liam extended an open hand in the air, pretending to hold a mirror in it, while Tobin stayed hidden behind the gator. Gaze upon your own fell, demon. No, my one and only weakness, the infinite reflection. Twirling on the railing, I coughed and wheezed, acting up a storm in my death scene. Looking back on it though, Liam really had done a better job of it in the movie. For my grand finale, I flopped onto my back, splayed out in the stone, halfway over the water. I'm dead. Try as I might to play dead, Liam and Tobin's laughter caused me to break character. My own laughter joined theirs as I opened my eyes to the vibrant sky reflected in the creek. They soon joined me on the bridge. That script really was terrible. Well, yeah, what kind of doofus thinks a mirror can defeat an evil mirror? Liam spoke in a way that meant that he was egging me on. He gave me a sly-looking grin. Hey now, what would you come up with that's so much better? Tobin soon mimicked Liam's grin before they spoke in unison. A rock! I began to cough and wheeze once more under a unified attack, laying so far off the railing that I was hanging upside down, my thick tail keeping me from falling into the creek. Ugh, I'm dead. Again. The gator laughed so loud that it caught looks from a few passerby, and Tobin released a happy sigh, watching me dangle so precariously. You guys want some snowballs? My treat. Totally. Yeah, I could go for one. A little lagniappe before the boil. For a few seconds longer, I let myself hang upside down, staring at the shimmering, rippling creek water, before slipping out of the moment, hurrying to catch up to the pair halfway to a cart vendor already. We ordered 3 snow cones, pineapple for Liam, root beer for Tobin, and cherry for myself. Finding a nice shaded patch under a willow tree, we plopped down on the ground. Nothing beats a snowball on a day like this. Guess this will be the last one, though. My whole body felt heavy as soon as the words slipped out. I'd been trying to keep those thoughts at bay, though it seemed that the happier I got, the easier things broke through. That feeling of dread that I'd been fighting off all week, creeping back in, I knew it showed in my face as well, the drooping whiskers, a vacant stare at the sweet cold treat held in my paw. What? They don't have these in Montana? Brah, he means the last one with the 3 of us together. I know what he meant. The fox snapped aggressively at Liam. He never did handle sadness well, and tried to deflect it with angry responses. Forget it. Don't matter. It's my paw's fault anyway. Brah, it's not too late. If and you wanna, we could still probably apply. Heck no, Liam. You and Tobin ain't gonna let them scholarships go to waste. It's not like it'll be forever. I just gotta sort out my life. Figure out a path, and I can still transfer in a couple of years, yeah? I guess. Still feels weird. I know we've had all summer to get ready for it. Just feels like it's over too fast. Your dad is a fool. He's not my paw anymore. You heard him. Better this way. I reassured Liam, glancing over at him with a smile, watching the large gator enjoy his sweet treat. What you staring for? Thanks for snapping at him. You too, Tobin. He had it coming. As we sat there enjoying the chilly, sweet snow cones, everything slowly felt good again, just as 3 friends enjoying our last day together. Let's take a picture together. I pulled my faithful camera from my fanny pack, carefully setting it up on a nearby picnic table to have us all in frame. With the wind of a dial, the timer ticked off the seconds. Liam and Tobin moved in closer, tightly sandwiching me in the middle. Worth it. You two think you're so clever. 'Cause we are. Come on, the boil will probably start soon. We made our way out of the park, once more cramming into Liam's truck, heading off towards a proper Nolan's seafood boil. It wasn't a long drive to the boil, and I was rather happily singing along with Tobin to a song on the radio, occasionally prodding Liam with an elbow to try and get him to join in, though he never did. The gator parked his truck alongside the sidewalk in front of a hedge fence courtyard, and as soon as we climbed out of the truck, the overwhelming, delicious scent was all around us. The hunger-inducing aromas of a bountiful boil, with its distinctive spice, citrus, well-cooked vegetables, and seafood. Already we could hear the joyful chatter of neighbors gathering together to share the feast. Oh man, looks like we made it just in time. Pushing open a large wooden gate, we slipped to a true New Orleans oasis, a wonderful lush courtyard garden shaded with wisteria flowers dangling from a trellis overhead that spanned the entire courtyard. The garden was full of picnic tables, and there was hardly an empty seat around, the place packed with fellow neighbors, a few of my classmates, and even some of my old teachers. At the far end, a row of large stock pots were boiling away, nearing completion. I was so busy waving at some of the neighbors that I didn't even notice someone sneaking up on me. Suddenly, a massive black bear scooped me off the ground, with so little effort that it made me look like a feather adrift in the wind, held tightly in the creature's arms. Bonjour, Cody. Eh, ça va, Garth? Ça va bien. The large Urson laughed so loudly that the three of us could feel the deep rumbling in his chest. Garth held his grip on me. Tobin and Liam knew that it was pointless effort to interrupt the hug. I got a real special boil for ya today, sure. Take a look-see. As if I was incapable of turning my head, Garth hoisted me around, once more letting me take in the wonderful sights of the boil in the making. Wow, really seems like everyone is here. I never considered myself popular, far from it, but I had to admit that I really was nice seeing so many people that I knew, one way or the other, gathered for one last boil. Garth was beaming with pride, clearly happy that he had managed his largest turnout yet. Much as I try to fly under the radar, people seemed to see me differently. In my heart, I knew why. I wished that I could avoid attention. It was a truth that would make almost everyone attending the feast hate me without question. What did I tell you, Chef? Shush! How could I not? Yeah, let the good times roll. Oui, exactly. Garth, put me down. I got envies for some crawdads that only your cooking can fix. The enormous bear laughed and finally sat me down, motioning with a paw for the three of us to follow. You're just in time. Come up front with me. The three of us followed Garth to the head table, which felt a little out of place as we preferred to stick to the flanks, but I appreciated the gesture of the Ursarin, who was really trying to make the event extra special. We grabbed a seat at the table with some of my neighbors and schoolmates while almost everyone else took a seat after the bear whistled loudly. His volunteers began to lay out the feast, spreading out massive hulls of corn, potatoes, crawfish, crab, andouille sausage, and more on every table. Liam's mouth was drooling at the sight of it all. Tobin took a shell cracker in paw, and I had my eyes fixed on the delicious-looking spread. The smell of it was even better. Nothing in my mind could top the pure, unique personality that came from the boil's secret spice blend, and Garth's was the best of them all. Gather round, y'all, gather round. Now I know y'all's dying to dig in, but first things first. Cody, would you do the honors? The question left a lump in my throat. Public speaking was never my forte. Being in front of a camera gave me the distance that I preferred. Regardless, I obliged the kindly bear and stood up from the table, walking over next to him. Everyone in the courtyard took hold of their neighbors' paws and bowed their heads. Bless the spirits and these crawfish that we are about to enjoy. Bless those who caught them and those who prepared them, and gave crawfish to those who have none. We thank you for this wonderful world and for all that you have put on it. And we give special thanks for having brought the Cajuns and the crawfish to the same place. Amen. The collective crowd recited the Amen with me, and I smiled, glad I'd managed to pull it off without a hitch. Merci, Cody. Absolutely beautiful. You heard him. Bon appetit. Garth took a seat with me at the table. Liam was already diving into a pile of crawfish, and Tobin was cracking open a crab leg, while Garth and I tucked into the feast as well. At least for a little while, the chatter amongst the crowds was minimal, everyone just digging in and enjoying the masterful, crafted meal. How's your ma and 'em? Ma is upset. Pa is... well, guess he's not my pa anymore. Garth narrowed his gaze at my response, easily picking up on the resentment and anger that I was still harboring over my father's methods, feelings that were strengthened by the uncertain future facing me. After all, things really fell apart when I started looking for colleges. My pa refused to pay for any college that wasn't Catholic, which sent me scrambling. Let's not talk about him. Bruh, this be worse than finding out someone put a curse on ya. I can hardly reckon the day is truly here. As if Liam had been sitting with bated breath, waiting for his moment, he couldn't help bringing up the subject again. Not the end of the world, just a couple years, eh? Enough. He's right. Don't even think about it. It's just any other day in the Nolans. As we continued to eat, we were occasionally interrupted by the neighbors and classmates popping over to chat, with quite a lot of compliments being heaped on Garth for the meal. So, are you ready for the premiere? Liam told me that it's not all bloody. I like the thought of that. Just have to set it up. Feel all tingly though. Never had this many to watch one before. Looking around, taking in the company once more, there were easily 50-some people partaking of the farewell gathering. I'd never shown my films outside of clubs at school. The thought made me nervous. What would people think? It's not just the blood that's different. Cody was acting so different for this one. We found this old steamboat wreck in the bayou. He just acted so odd every time that we were on it. Nonsense. I was just figuring out good angles and framing. Nah. Tobin's right. It's like you were always somewhere else. Maybe he was. Bayous are awash with strange energy. So many stories about them. There aren't enough days in the year to talk about them all. I was just impressed, alright. Finding an old wreck like that untouched, it was a goldmine for us. The conversation had strangely put me on edge. It was just an old ship, that's all. We continued to dine, chat, and feast until we were all well full. I knew that it was time, though. Everyone had slowly drifted back into the casual conversation. Merci, chef. 'Twas a masterful piece. Just give me a couple of minutes to set up. Oui, it was divine. I couldn't possibly eat another bit, brah. Coming from Liam, that was one of the greatest compliments Garth had ever received, causing the bear to chuckle softly. I left the courtyard for only a moment to gather the equipment that I needed for the premiere. Taking my time setting up the film projector and screen in the most shaded corner of the courtyard. Tobin wandered over, watching as I spooled the film. Excited? Something like that. Who would have thunk that I'd be getting the jitters? I tried telling Garth not so many people. Guess word got out though. Yeah, even Mr. Jenkins is here. Thought he hated us. Tobin glanced off to the older husky who was chatting up with one of the female coworkers. He'd been our third-grade teacher and always seemed to target us the hardest. Well, Liam spilled the coffee on him, then there was a stink bomb. How was I supposed to know that I could do that? Plus, you saw the effects book. We had to try. Liam pulled himself away from the crowd, joining Tobin and I as I continued to set up things. You talking about Jenkins? Yeah, don't know why he's here. Liam playfully punched me in the arm, eliciting a startled squeak, stumbling enough that I nearly knocked over the projector. What was that for? You both forgot? It was a stink bomb. Can't believe you forgot. What about it? He had a reaction or something. Went to the hospital, right? Yeah, don't remind me. Swear my pa went and bought a new belt just because of that. Well, where do you think Jenkins met his missus? Shut up. He did not. You serious? I can't believe you both forgot. Was a nurse at the hospital. Jenkins started being all nice after that. Heck, how did I forget about that? And here I am thinking that he still smells like rotten eggs. Dang. Tobin, can you go set up the reel to reel? Almost ready here. The fox gave a nod, grabbing the audio spools, wandering off to get the rest of the setup done so we could get the movie going. You ready for this, brah? No, but fixing to do it anyway. Once everything was set up, Garth herded the three of us in front of the screen, gathering everyone's attention, standing there with all the faces staring, left me shaking. Tobin gently nudged against me after a few seconds. Well, go on. Get it over with. Shuffling in place a little, I took a deep breath, attempting to steady my nerves, still wishing I was behind a camera rather than in front of an expectant crowd. Howdy, y'all. Really appreciate so many of you coming to this Boylan premiere. The more I spoke, the more my nerves seemed to melt away, speaking with a little more confidence with each passing second. Before we get things started, how about a round of applause for Chef Garth and his team making such a splendid feast? The crowd applauded the bear, who stood proudly off to the side, looking hot in the face. When the applause died down, I hurried to get on with it. We've got a real special picture for you, I like to think. Tobin, Liam, and I are happy to present Creole Queen's Widower Voyage. Flipping a switch on the projector, I hurried over to the speaker system and started the audio when a red card appeared. Liam and Tobin took seats near the front, while I stayed in the back, watching the crowd settle in for my most recent film. This was the first time that I'd ever had so many spectators for one of our movies. My eyes were darting back and forth between the crowd and the screen. I chuckled at the sight of Tobin in his white prom tuxedo, peering out from the deck of the old riverboat. A vixen wandered in from off-frame and started to chat up Tobin before the pair started a rather sultry dance. This was our biggest production to date. After the film club found out that I was moving away, we all gathered together for one last hurrah. As the minutes rolled on, the overall lack of response from the crowd was making me nervous. No one had taken their eyes off of the film. Though that left me wondering whether they were fixated because it was a train wreck, or they were actually enjoying it. I know how I felt, continuing to see all the small mistakes that I'm sure that I was the only one who could see, though they still bothered me as I strove for perfection. But then it happened. There was a mostly unanimous gasp of shock when the first unsettling element took place. The vixen was shoved by a mysterious figure from the bow of the ship, a look of terror in her eyes as she fell towards green flames rising from the quagmire. As the movie neared its end, the tension of the crowd was palpable. It made the fur of my neck stand on end, watching with deep interest as the finale began. Fog rolled in around Liam, who stood menacingly on the dock by his ship, dressed in a bloodied captain's outfit, shimmering orbs of light behind him, lining the decks of the decrepit boat. Tobin stood in shambles. His eyes looked heavy with an eternity of guilt and sadness. I can't bear this pain any longer. Please, let me see my Esmeralda again. I have done all that you've asked of me. Forever will I live with these sins that I've committed at your behest. Honor our bargain and return my Esmeralda. If that is your wish. Liam faded into the fog, and the scene became sunlit. The vixen stood in her shimmering dress at the top of the ramp, a hand outstretched to Tobin, once more dressed in his finest suit. Romantic music swelled as they walked up the ramp, pulling Esmeralda into a tight embrace. The glow of the sunlight narrowed on them like a spotlight, and they danced. It's over, my sweet honeysuckle. We are together again at last. A blinding flash of light, and Tobin stood frozen in the dance, a knife plunged into his back, the vixen holding the handle of the blade. The ghostly orbs returned once more, gathered around the deadly scene, Liam looming tall in the background with the red glow of his eyes, a sickly, approving grin on his face. Now and forever, my love. Tobin's dying gargle was captivating, jerking and twitching in her arms as his life left his body. After a solid 40 minutes, it was all over. The film ended, and there wasn't even a second of hesitation. The whole courtyard was applauding, some even standing up. The sight of it made my eyes water immediately, completely stunned by the reaction. Tobin and Liam were being mobbed with praise, pats on the back, and handshakes. I wasn't allowed to escape the attention as Garth had once again snuck up on me, sweeping me off my feet into another firm hug. That was magnificent, Cher. I didn't even try to struggle as Garth kept me pinned in the hug, walking me back up to the front and center to it all. Liam looked flustered, and Tobin looked as if he was standing a few inches taller, just trying to keep up with all the congratulations. I spent a good 10 minutes receiving compliments and wasn't allowed to budge away as Garth kept a firm paw on my shoulder, trying to comfort me in the moment that was overwhelming both with joy and anxiety. Soon enough, the crowd began to part, leaving just the four of us and a few stragglers, still shaking with excitement as I packed up the equipment, watching Tobin and Liam bounce about, the fox grappling once more about Liam's neck. You're a star, Liam. Heck nah, brah. Yours is the one that made it special. I'm just a klutz. Tobin gently kicked Liam in the leg with one of his dangling footpaws, barking with annoyance. Eh, what I tell you about selling yourself short? Enough of that. You were fantastic. It only took a moment of my back being turned before Liam had come over, pulling me once more into his bow's grip. Tobin still grappling around the gator's throat. Liam was laughing with delight, and I was as well, in between gasping breaths. Okay, ease up. No sooner had Liam let me go, and I was once more swept off the ground by Garth. I was beginning to feel like a sack of potatoes being passed back and forth. There's something that I have to show you, Twal, before I let you get underway. Come along. Liam and Tobin followed close behind as Garth carried me and led us to the brick wall that separated the courtyard from the restaurant interior. A large tarp was covering whatever he wanted to show us. The bear sat me down and moved over the wall, grasping the tarp, smiling warmly at the three of us. You boys know that you'll always be special to me. If not for y'all working so hard for a year, just out of kindness, this restaurant wouldn't still be here. It was only 2 years back when the gas crisis was still making everyone hurt. Garth's restaurant was our favorite, and he'd clearly been struggling to keep it going. The work was tough, but we spent a year volunteering our time to fill out the jobs that he had had to cut to stay afloat. The four of us had bonded tightly in that time, an unbreakable friendship. Reckon it's about time that you got a little recognition. Garth pulled the tarp down from the wall, revealing a large framed photograph. It was the four of us gathered in the kitchen, some of us covered in flour, joy on our faces. I remembered the morning well, the bear teaching us how to make his famous Gruyere biscuits. Liam had been kneading the dough so aggressively at one point that it left a small dent in the prep table. Chef, you're gonna make me cry if you ain't careful. This is beautiful. Now, where are we supposed to eat? Everyone will be pining over us. The fox spoke in a joking manner, which got a laugh out of Liam, the gator gently butting up against the fox. Shush up. If that movie is anything to go on, we'll have to get used to some attention one day. Garth took out 3 envelopes and handed them to each of us, a copy of the photo for us to keep. I held it close to my chest for a moment, sighing peacefully. Thank you, Garth. Oui, merci. We'll do it again if you ever need us to. Thank you, boys, from the bottom of my heart. You're family in my eyes and will always be part of this place. Garth yanked me off the floor for one last hug, crushing me into his figure, chuckling with delight. The laughter was a little cracked, trying to hold back the sadness that lingered in the moment. Don't be a stranger now. Drop me a letter when you can. Course I will, so long as you promise to keep those 2 fed. Always sure. I'll leave a seat at the table for you. Garth patted both Tobin and Liam on the back before wandering off to go about cleaning up with his team. We stayed a minute longer to admire the photo on the wall, but soon walked out to Liam's truck. We left the boil with our stomachs near to bursting and immense joy in our hearts from how well the film had been received. Bouncing along in the truck through the heart of New Orleans, making our way to a lesser-known park in the city. The park ran along the outskirts of the bayou and had planked trails meandering through some of the swampy marsh. The entire park had a different feel to it, one that I found more relaxing and attractive. Man, the boil was the best one ever. He really pulled all the stops. We wandered along one of the dirt trails, attempting to avoid the food coma the feast wanted to put us into, perfectly content in the muggy afternoon. Look, I know you said not to, but couldn't help myself. Got you some going-away presents. Liam looked on the verge of tears before I even got half of what I set out. Tears that, no matter how hard he fought off, were going to happen. As I fished around in my fanny pack, Tobin moved a few steps away, staring off into the bayou. Even he was finally struggling to fight back his emotions, still hoping this was some bad dream that he could wake up from any moment now. Slipping out 2 gifts wrapped in newspaper, I handed them off to my friends with a soft smile, watching Tobin turn his over and over in his paw. The gator was hesitant at first, but accepting the gift, though it looked small in his hands, I had no doubt that it felt heavy with an emotional weight. As Liam fought back tears, his hands shaking as he fumbled with the paper, a distinct, all too familiar musty smell was wafting upwards at him. It told him what was waiting inside, without even seeing it. What he finally pulled out was a large folded map. The sight of the map unleashed Liam's floodgates, tears streaming down his rough face. He'd always been the softest one, not that he ever minded. However, the outburst caught the eminent ear of Tobin. "Get a hold of yourself. It's just a damn map." Of course, Tobin knew that it wasn't just any old map. It was one of my pride and joys, the past 10 years of our adventures together, all contained and plotted out on sacred parchment. Every shortcut, filming location, vantage point, and secret hangout spot had been years in the making and served as a timeline of most of our friendship. Liam continued to sob, his hand shaking as he held onto the map. Tobin huffed and began to unwrap his gift. In his paws, he was now holding a small, soft-rolled leather case, and Tobin recognized it immediately. It was my set of lockpicks. The lock and the picks together had unlocked so many adventures, so many secrets, and so much joy. It was finally enough that even his tough temperament couldn't hold back tears. Struggling to hold myself together, I pulled a pair of them into a hug, with the tears rolling down my maw. "Don't stop exploring just 'cause I'm gone. I fully expect you all to have some new things to show me when I can visit." Tobin remained quiet, a few tears still rolling through his short fur of his muzzle, squeezing the leather case in his paws, while Liam was fruitlessly trying to dry his face with his shirt. "We have something for you two." The fox reached into his pocket, pulling out a tiny wrapped gift and a sealed envelope, offering it to me, which I gratefully accepted. "The envelope is from Ma and I." The gator spoke in a choking voice, trying as hard as he could to get a hold of himself, not wanting to sully our hour together, though his eyes still shimmered with sadness. With a claw, I slit the envelope open and pulled out a receipt card for honey beignets. "Oh man, is this your mom's recipe? Not even Dumont's can beat your mom's." My excitement over the recipe finally got a smile out of the gator, nodding his head. "Yeah, got her to give up the secret, just for you." Excitedly, I went about unwrapping the small gift next, quick to pull out a cassette tape. A piece of white tape was stuck on it, with the words Cajun Summer written in marker. The clear plastic seemed to shimmer in the sunlight. "Thought that maybe you would enjoy a little taste of home when you got settled in." "This is perfect, more than I could have hoped for." Both of my friends were smiling over the joyful look on my face. They'd always known that I prefer simple gifts. "Come on, let's grab some shade." The three of us took to laying on the grass under a large willow tree, my eyes watching the wispy leaves dance in the gentle evening breeze. "I still cannot believe it. I want it not to be true. Is summer really over?" "It's not fair, damn it." Tobin and I glanced over to the gator for the second time. A day seemed the rare sight of Liam ever showing a hint of anger, let alone be vocal about it. "It's my fault. I waited too long to apply for scholarships and stuff. Guess I put too much hope in believing my pa would change his mind. At least I'm finally done with him. Can do my own thing, not be some dang walking trophy case." "Well, at least one good thing came out of the way that he treats you. You stayed in the same grade as us, instead of skipping." "Yeah, his one good deed hassled him enough to let me stay where I was. School sure as heck didn't care how I felt about it." Taking a deep breath, puffing on my chest, before imitating the voice of my father. "You'll never get anywhere in life taking shortcuts, Cody. Have to take the long way." Heck, what does he know about getting somewhere in life? Not a damn thing if and you ask me. "Just forget about it. Ain't nothing that you can do about it now." "It's not all bad, though. Maybe we can come for a visit during the winter break?" "Yeah, bro, that would be a blast. Can show us all the new art stuff you learned." A soft beeping broke through the conversation. the alarm on my watch letting us know the Reaper had come at last. The simple beeping put a painful weight on my chest, planting me to the ground. Reluctantly, we all stood up, quietly making our way back to Liam's truck. I smiled softly as I was squished in the middle once more. The pressure of the two against me in the moment made me realize that I was going to miss the small things the most. After all these years, I could hardly think of a day in my life where we weren't doing something together. Knowing this would be the last moment for a while, where we'd still be enjoying each other's company, was almost unbearable. The final truck ride together was a grueling experience. Every green light, every mile further was painful. None of us could even muster the emotional strength to talk as Liam pushed on. Until we parked in the lot of the bus station, a depressing sight cast in the glow of dusk light, and I let out a heavy sigh climbing out of the truck. This is really it, I guess. Tobin huffed, looking at the pool of buses idling away, watching crowds of people mill about. Liam was shaking something fierce, helping to pull my bags out of the truck. Only for now. Sometimes we just gotta go where the current takes us, brah. You sure about this, Cody? Mom might let you stay at her place. I can't impose like that. Besides, can't give up on this dream. I want to see our names in the lights someday. We'll get back together for winter break. An announcement came over the speaker, letting me know my bus was ready for passengers to load on. Liam pulled the three of us into one final spine-pulverizing hug. The gator was crying so hard that I could feel tears dripping off of his face and between my ears. Tobin was sniffling and holding almost as tight as Liam. Love you guys. I'll get you my number as soon as I got a phone. Safe travels, Cody. Adieu for now. I'll convince my ma to send you more recipes, okay, brah? You show 'em out there what proper food is. Of course I will. After one last hug, I took my bags and climbed onto the bus, finding a window seat, looking out at my friends, who were waving. They stayed for the last few minutes until the bus started rolling away. So off I go, on a journey into the terrifying unknown, far from the city that I'd lived in my entire life. Heading to a college in a town that might as well have been on the other side of the world in my eyes. Even as the miles wore on, that feeling of doubt lingered heavily in my heart, wondering if I should just try and go back, live on the streets if I had to. At least then I'd still be with my friends. Though as miserable as I felt, I couldn't deny there was a tiny spark of excitement. Each bus transfer on the journey was another reminder that I was on my own, making my own decisions and no longer afraid of my pa. The week-long trip had been a blur, through the swamps of Louisiana, past the boundless plains of Texas and New Mexico, through the majestic mountains of Colorado, and long stretches of complete isolation in Wyoming. Until at last, I was on my final bus, slipping into Montana. Fragment pine trees were plentiful, and quivering leaves on aspen trees were beginning to show small shades of vibrant color. It was the first time in the journey that I truly felt happy. The beauty of the area was so vastly different from my home. It filled me with the flashes of inspiration for new films. The drive into Aspen Hollow only furthered these fresh ideas. I took in every detail of a small town that had grown out of the Wild West days. Every home was distinct and worn down, surrounded on all sides by mountains. As the bus rolled through the town and towards the heart of it, the newer buildings and homes were changing out for older edifications. Ancient structures from the days of the Gold Rush pioneers, moonshiners, and Depression-era relics, little more than their interiors were modified for new shops, new owners. Some still had faint lettering left in their original places. It wasn't until we passed through the heart of Aspen Hollow that a realization struck me. It felt like there was a distinct sadness behind this town. Just about everything there looked like they'd passed from generation to generation. Buildings that were little more than a ball and chain, keeping the hopeful from doing something more with their lives. When the bus finally came to a stop, I was the only one to get off, lugging my 2 duffel bags and backpack off and out into the open air, immediately bathed in the fragrant scent of towering pine trees. Fumbling around in my pocket, I pulled out a small list of directions, telling me how to get from the bus stop to the motel that I'd be staying. Thankfully, it wasn't too long of a walk, though my arms were still screaming at me by the time that I got to the roadside motel, gently pushing my way into the little office, giving a tap on the bell. Just a moment. Be right with you. A rather kind badger soon stepped out from the back and squared away my reservation. You need anything? Don't hesitate to ask. Thank you. Just happy to have a place to stay. Before I knew it, I was alone in complete privacy for the first time in a week, just letting my bags drop onto the floor. I collapsed onto the bed, which creaked loudly, letting myself sink into its softness. After melting into the bed for what seemed like a solid couple of hours, I found the strength to catch a shower, glad to watch the stink of a long journey from my body. As the water cascaded over me, I did my best not to think about home. If I let myself mope, I knew that would be the end of any motivation that I had. If I wanted to stay strong, I would have to focus on what lay ahead. School starts next week, and I needed to find somewhere to stay before then. What little I'd saved up would only pay for a couple of nights at this motel. And that's actually where I'm going to leave it for today. So, that was the beginning of Northern Lights. There's also, obviously still more, but it might be like 2 hours at least, or a little bit under 2 hours. So I'm gonna split it into two. Anyways, so we got to meet our protagonist, Cody, the otter that you see right there in the cover. And we will be seeing the next, well, I guess you could call him the secondary protagonist, or the supporting protagonist, or whatever, who is right there next to Cody. I'm getting vibes from this town that he has just arrived in. But yeah, so I'm curious as to why exactly he got kicked out, because I'm pretty sure that it wasn't just because he didn't want to go to a Catholic school. Obviously, the parent, or at least the father, wasn't really helping the situation. I guess he was one of those parents where it's like that they literally push their child to do something because that's what they wanted to do when they were younger, and they either couldn't or they wouldn't or whatever. So any little accomplishment that the child did was like, oh yeah, look, my child did this, but in their head it was like, oh yeah, I did this, I accomplished this, even though it was their kid, and even if their kid didn't want to do it. So yeah, he had friends. He was he wants to be a film major or something, I guess. Yeah. I was not expecting the story to take place in, well, at least the beginning to take place in New Orleans. I was like, should I attempt the accent? Like, nah. Yeah. Well, so far so good, I guess. I guess now that we're actually in the town that he's gonna be staying in, this is when the story actually gets started, I guess. Yeah. Don't really have any thoughts on it yet. I mean, nice art, it's taps. I like the music, especially the song. I was already hearing the song on repeat a lot when Mo put it on Spotify. But yeah, anyways, so yeah, you guys in the comments, what do you think so far? Write it down in the description, and thank you all for watching / listening. If you would like to play Northern Lights yourself, you can do so by going down into the link in the description to download it. Well, to go to Twitter, if it still exists, to get a direct link to the itch.io page where you can download it and play it. Or you can, just go to itch.io yourself and download it there. And I'm not sure if they have a Patreon or a Ko-fi yet, but if they do, I will post that down in the description, along with mine, in case you want to donate to, either one. And yeah, so I guess that's it for now, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.